Good morning. It's wonderful to be up here because that means the preparation's over. Get on with it. Excuse me. I had to think long and hard about the topic for this month. It's been mentioned numerous times already this morning, and you'll hear it again throughout my talk. That theme of perfect actions, no mistakes. It got me thinking about things like, well, if there really are no mistakes, then we wouldn't have a word for it. You know, like sladness. We don't have that word because there's nothing that it's associated with. And I wondered about that expression. Whose words were they? What perspective were they spoken from? And what in the world did it have to do with me? Of course, I had to zero in on that word mistakes. I realized that maybe if there is a word, maybe it's just for something that we have in our imagination. You know, there are words like dragon or magic carpet or compassionate and intelligent presidential candidate. These are things that exist in our imagination. And also, for that matter, a world that works for everyone. Our vision here, at this point, really just exists in our imagination. But we do, in fact, have words to talk about that. So is the word mistake something that we just have in our imagination? Well, no, really, I can make some mistakes. Watch this. C scale. Two hands. Twice as fast. Oh, did you hear that one? Let's try E flat. Oh, so you see what I mean? You know, when I was a child taking piano lessons, I would get to a point where I felt like I really should be able to play this piece without making any mistakes. I'd sit down to play, I'd make a mistake, I'd get frustrated, so I'd try again. And the more frustrated I got, the more mistakes I made until I was at the point of just slapping the keys and walking off. So those mistakes were pretty real, and they certainly had a big impact on me at the time. So do we only assign that word mistakes to things we do and say? It really started generating a lot of questions around this. In fact, I was feeling not very inspired by the topic and a little bit grumpy that Reverend Bonnie came up with this topic, and it just wasn't calling to me for some reason. So I thought, well, I'll go to the textbook, check out what Ernest Holmes has to say. There are only actually two references in the back in the index for the word mistakes. And the first one is indeed on page 290. And much to my surprise, the section heading was, in fact, perfect actions, no mistakes. So I discovered that these were not, in fact, Reverend Bonnie's words. They were words from Ernest Holmes. So I eagerly read that passage, thinking that I would find something that would inspire me to say something meaningful in this talk. And I'm not going to read that whole passage. We did share a lengthy passage from page 290 last week, but I thought the sentences that were relevant to me were as follows. It's not that we have made no mistakes, but if the belief in the necessity of mistakes stays in the consciousness, then there's bound to be a repetition. It is scientific practice to declare that there have been no mistakes in a person's consciousness, that if there have been, they are now wiped out. So he's using words like belief and consciousness in association with mistakes. And in fact, he instructs us to use the process of denial to help us release the belief that there's any necessity for mistakes, that mistakes have taken place in the past, or if they have taken place, they're in the past. And he guides us or advises us to, in a sense, affirm that there will be no more mistakes. But, if you're a good user of affirmations, you don't affirm in the future, you do it in the present. So it might be more like, there are no mistakes now, or none are required now. Anyway, I found all this kind of confusing. Here's the section heading talking about perfect actions, and then in the body of the work, he's talking about beliefs and consciousness and thinking. Is it helpful to differentiate what kind of mistakes we make? I went through all the other WH words after thinking, what is a mistake? Well, who makes mistakes? Do babies make mistakes? When do we make mistakes? Where? How? Why do we make mistakes? Maybe this phrase of perfect actions, no mistakes, is describing us as we strive to be godlike. And I thought about it, I realized, if we were describing our source, I could easily say, yes, I think that presence in the universe is represented by perfect action and no mistakes. Had there been mistakes, I think the chaos would have rattled the universe apart. And here we are in this place that we call the Center for Spiritual Living, and is this concept anything that helps support me in living a spiritual life? More questions, no answers, blah, blah, blah. On and on I went until my head began to feel like a snow globe, I think, with this raging blizzard going on. And after a while, I was able to relax a little bit and maybe focus a bit more, until finally some images began to appear. And ultimately, I ended up with some strong convictions. And this is what I determined: that we are, at the core of our being, expressions of the divine. And as Holmes says, we exist in limitless opportunities that are forever seeking expression through us. We have a tenet around here, T-E-N-E-T, that says that God, or the universal presence, that infinite life, whatever we call it, is represented throughout the universe in many forms, but including the order and balance and harmony, and that it's constantly creating and unfolding, and it encompasses everything. So that means that it's God, it's not God and Cheryl, it is God as Cheryl. So the entirety of my being is also an expression of this perfection. And we often use the expression perfect, whole, and complete when we refer to ourselves during treatment or in our readings. So I might say that my true nature is perfect and unmistaken. And I really feel comfortable with that if I sense that it is the truth at kind of a subconscious level. But when I begin to add consciousness and physicality to the equation, then things seem to take a bit of a turn. Suppose I'm a baby. I'll make mistakes as I'm learning new skills. I make mistakes when I say things. I might use the word windsheeper when I'm talking about those things that are cleaning the water off the front of your car. Or I might cover my eyes and think, you can't see me, because I've disappeared. So I might make mistakes of those kinds, but I'm still at the core of my being perfect, whole, and complete. I'm, in essence, a kernel of consciousness, exploring the limitless possibilities of life. Later, as an adult, I continue to make those kinds of mistakes as I'm learning new skills. And I may make mistakes even after I've learned a new skill if I'm not paying attention, or if some kind of physical problem crops up that impedes my performance in some way. I might say things wrong or think things wrong if I don't have a complete understanding, or if I have an incorrect understanding of something. Could be the grounds for errors to take place. I've determined that mistakes take place in the present. I might act out in my mind repeatedly and judgmentally things I've done wrong, but they took place in the present. I'm just reviewing them. They are, in fact, over with when I'm repeating them in my mind. And I cannot make a mistake in the future. If I'm choosing to make a mistake, that is, in fact, a choice. Then I wondered, can I make a mistake in who I am, in that sense of what I am at the core of my being? Can that be mistaken? Started thinking about that ugly duckling story. Here was the swan that was hanging out with the ducks, was raised by ducks, but it still could not be other than its inherent makeup. It still had that size and beauty and gracefulness that was expressed from a template for swans that devised by nature. So it could not, but it could act contrary to that nature by hanging out with these ducks and by thinking, I'm ugly, I'm awkward. So it acted and thought in error, but it was still a large, beautiful, graceful waterfowl, its basic nature. So I think that's true for us as well. We cannot be other than the perfect in regard to being spirit expressing in human form. But we can make mistakes in what we do or what we say. And I find that the more I spend time coming into alignment with that core self, that the kinds of mistakes I may be making or the things I may be thinking in error tend to subside. Around here, we place a lot of emphasis on right thinking. Everyone, or I'm sure, has heard that expression, change your thinking, change your life. And we also place an emphasis on being responsible for what you're thinking. And so it takes practice to take on that role of being the actor in the story of life, but also being the audience and catching what you might have said or done and determining whether you might choose another way next time. Maybe it's not based on sound science. Maybe you'd like to make a change because you were off the mark, as Reverend Bonnie was discussing last week. So I think I'd like to spend the remaining few minutes, because it is a hard skill to develop. Let's just practice a little bit. It's easier to find other people's mistakes. Then you can go away and watch for your own. I have a brochure here that I got from the CSL in Kiev, Ukraine. And every year they have a fall conference that takes place. And I'm going to read the passage to you about their theme for this year, which is Peace Now, Mir сейчас. And here's what they have to say. And I'm in no way putting down what they're doing, but I found this, rather than make up my own example, this fell in my lap. So listen carefully. See if you can find anything here that maybe could be rephrased to be a little more powerful. It says, judging or worrying? Instead, simply breathe and say, peace now. Aggression or anger disturbing your peace? Go back to breathing, peace now. And choose to let go and trust life. Complaints or criticisms getting you down, or flies? Back to breathing, trusting life, and now give thanks for everything and choose to use all moments for good. It is simple, but not easy. However, it is a great joy to see how quickly we cultivate peace now. Anybody have an idea what we might change in there?
It's simple, but not easy.
There you go. What kind of affirmation is that? It's a bad one. You know, I went online to see if I could find anything that was simple and easy. Oh, there's lots of things like hairstyles, recipes, Halloween costumes, science projects. Wouldn't it be nice if we could apply that concept to things that are a little bit more substantial? Something that has more impact on our lives? So let's practice a little bit. I'm going to have you repeat 2 affirmations. Here we go. As an expression of the divine, making a delicious sandwich is simple and easy. With me? As an expression of the divine, making a delicious sandwich is simple and easy. Okay, here's another one. As an expression of the divine, building deep and lasting relationships is simple and easy. As an expression of the divine, building deep and lasting relationships is simple and easy. Do those feel different in any way? Feel a little resistance, perhaps? Let's practice some more and see if you can kind of maintain, since we're making sandwiches here, kind of see if you can spread that sense of ease throughout all of these affirmations. Here's another one. As an expression of the divine, tying my shoes is simple and easy. As an expression of the divine, tying my shoes is simple and easy. As an expression of the divine, making wise choices is simple and easy. As an expression of the divine, making wise choices is simple and easy. All right? As an expression of the divine, writing my name is simple and easy. As an expression of the divine, writing my name is simple and easy. As an expression of the divine, contributing in a lasting way to my community is simple and easy. As an expression of the divine, contributing in a way simple and easy. Very good. As an expression of the divine, participating in the give and take of money is simple and easy. As an expression of the divine, participating in the give and take of money is simple and easy. As an expression of the divine, releasing worries, doubts, and fears is simple and easy. As an expression of the divine, releasing worries, doubts, and fears, simple and easy. So hopefully you see how that works. And you may have a sense that it gets easier to have a neutral impact as you say those statements, even though they might have had a little resistance at first. But you need to know that the universe knows no size and no difficulty, no job too small. It doesn't matter what you're affirming. And remember that we're defining our source as perfect actions, no mistakes. And I kind of see us as God franchises. So we also have those tools and resources. And I would think with all of what the universe has ready at your disposal, it might make it maybe even just a smidgen easier to accomplish what you want to accomplish if you realize how much you have backing you up. Another example, public speaking may seem more challenging than driving home. But I'm not going to use the word difficult to describe it, or hard. I might say, it takes some time, I have to put out some effort, but it does not require stress and strain. It does not require a fear of failure. It doesn't require impatience. It does require that I relax and allow my true swan to express itself. In fact, it's not the item that I think needs to be considered as easy. It's me that needs to be easy, to have a sense of ease, easygoing. Over the last few months, I took up the practice of doing crossword puzzles, and I discovered something very interesting. I would work on the puzzle in the evening, and then I'd kind of give up, and there were parts of it left undone. I'd leave it till the next day, and I'd pick it up, and I'd read the clues, and I'd know the answers. This did not just happen once. It happened all the time. And it was often several words within that same puzzle. It just flowed right out. So I love that concept. And the experience of it was so vivid for me that I just wish that we all could be able to apply that sense of ease to other aspects of our lives. It just flows when you're in that place of alignment. But, I really didn't concentrate on it. I didn't put out any effort at all. It just came as I had, in some unconscious way, put out to the universe. What's the answer to what's that guy's name? Pancho Villa's mother's name or something, yes. All right, so we're going to do a little bit more practice. And the example I had is something that I love and think of often, which is Portia Nelson's autobiography in 5 short chapters. A lot of you are familiar with this little story, so just to jazz it up a little bit, we are going to present it via video. Thank you very much, Larry.
Autobiography in 5 Short Chapters by Portia Nelson. Chapter 1. I walk down the street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I fall in. I am lost. I am helpless. It isn't my fault. It takes me forever to find a way out. Chapter 2. I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I pretend I don't see it. I fall in again. I can't believe I am in the same place, but it isn't my fault. It still takes a long time to get out. Chapter 3. I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I see it is there. I still fall in. It's a habit, but my eyes are open. I know where I am. It is my fault. I get out immediately. Chapter 4. I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I walk around it. Chapter 5. I walk down another street.
All right. Very good. Thank you. That's right. All right, so we're going to start to wind things up here. I want to let you know that when Marilyn presumably comes up for the final song, that will be another opportunity for you to practice. As you listen to these lyrics, the character is going to have a bit of a transition take place. So watch out for that thinking at the beginning and how the thinking evolves. Oh, I just realized around here we place a lot of emphasis on thinking about what you want, not what you don't want. What you want more of rather than what you want less of. So it might have served you better if I wasn't talking for these last 20 minutes about mistakes. So maybe I should ask Skip to just kind of delete all that. And let's spend a few minutes thinking about what we do want. That perfect action, especially as Bonnie was describing it last time, as we're aiming, taking good aim, aiming through practicing to hit the mark. So if you would, just settle into your seats here for a moment. Go within. Embrace your inner swan. And listen to the words of Ernest Holmes, who says, "Perfect God within me, perfect life within me, which is God. Come forth into expression through me as that which I am. Lead me ever into the paths of perfection and cause me to see only the good." And so it is.